My peoples. First of all, I'm excited that boxing will be part of the 2028 Olympics, which will go down in LA. But I'm wondering, are they going to allow trans athletes to compete versus women? And the reason I say versus women is because I haven't seen, women who transition into men and they're trying to compete versus other men. I haven't seen that yet. That could be the case, but I just haven't seen it. It's usually men who transition into women and they want to compete versus other women. And we saw that in the last Olympics. We saw the most famous trans boxer, Iman, something like that, who got to face off versus women and walked out of the last Olympics with a gold medal. So the magic question is, should this boxer, Iman Khalif, should this trans boxer be allowed to compete with women? I mean, I have my personal opinion. I think that, you know, in combat sports, trans should not be allowed to compete with the opposite sex. Or what I mean by that, because I understand, if you're a trans athlete, if you're a trans, you feel like you're that sex or whatever the case may be. And I respect that. I don't have an issue with the trans community at all. I feel like people should be able to live their life the way that they want to live it. But when it comes to combat sports, where you're going to have a physical advantage, I don't think it's fair. It, when it goes to that, it's like you have women competing against men because you were born a man. You transitioned over or did whatever it takes to legally become a woman. But again, I don't think that is fair for those women to have to compete versus someone who was born a man. And look, so here's my solution. And this is what I think should happen. If you're a trans athlete who competes in combat sports, you should compete versus folks who were born the same sex as you. So if you were born a man, even though you transition to a woman, you should still compete versus the men. So this athlete that got the Olympic gold, in the last Olympics, Iman Khalif, he should go compete against men because you were born a man. And I've had people tell me, no, it's complicated because, they call her she to be politically correct. She was born with both sex, and because of that, it's different. No. And I'm going to explain to you why it's not different. This is the magic question. Does this person have a uterus and can they give birth, or do they produce sperm? Simple as that. Simple as that. Daniel Cabral Marquez, appreciate it. So we have to wonder, is it fair, right? Is it fair for women who earn their shot, because going to the Olympics, that's a big deal. Going to the Olympics is not something that is just handed to you. You have to win, in your own country. You have to win a bunch of tournaments. You have to become number one in your division. You have to earn that shot. And then you finally make it. You go to the Olympics and you have to fight somebody who was born a man. Is that really fair? And then you get beat up by a trans woman. Is that really fair? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, the 2028 Olympics will go down in Los Angeles in the United States. And Donald Trump has already passed a law or something like that where trans athletes will not be allowed to compete versus women. And I seen that this specific athlete who won a gold medal in the Olympics said that He's planning on competing in the Olympics and defending his title. How does that even play out? Are they going to reject him in the US and say, nope, you're not allowed to compete? Is this a situation that's gonna end up in a courtroom and they're gonna battle it out to try to, you know, this trans athlete trying to get in to compete versus the women? You see, I think that, you know, for you to have been born a man and transition over to a woman and want to compete versus women, I think that you want a physical advantage. Because if you feel like you're that talented or you feel like you're that good, why do you want to compete versus the opposite sex? You could transition over all you want. That is still the opposite sex. Why not compete versus the man? That's how I see it. If you're born this sex, you should compete versus the people of the same sex. I think that's fair. I think that that's logical. And so the Olympics or the Olympic Committee in the last one, 2024, to me, they failed. When they allowed a transgender to compete versus the women and walk out of there with a gold medal, y'all failed. And I think for this next Olympics, they gotta fix that. They have to. You cannot allow trans women to compete versus real women in combat sports for what should be obvious reasons. You're talking about a physical advantage, which is going to translate into a competitive advantage. My peoples, hit that like button. Y'all already know what it is. This is Box Center, your favorite boxers, favorite boxing show. Don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. We already hit 1,000 subscribers a couple of days ago. 2,000 is next, and we're going for 1,000,000. This is going to be the number one boxing show on the internet, period. There's no getting around it. But again, that's the magic question. You know, should trans athletes be allowed to compete versus women? Superman, salute, my brother. Appreciate you coming through. Caballo, not shirt. Appreciate it, my brother. Hash bash. That's not fair to the women because I feel like can't no woman beat me. It doesn't matter what they know, just my ego and pride talking. You know, and maybe there are some boxing women that could beat your ass, but if you're not training and you're not in a gym like that, it's not a fair comparison, right? But imagine, you know, these young ladies from around the world who have to earn a spot at the Olympics, who have to fight regional, who have to fight, win so many tournaments in their own country, and finally, you know, they become champions in their country, in their division. Now you go on the world stage and you have to fight a trans woman and get beat up by a trans woman. That's not fair at all. So either trans women fight versus people born of the same sex as them, or they find another league where there's trans versus trans. And y'all can fight each other, no problem. Yo, the peace, my brother. Salute, my G. Superman. Yeah, they deserve a fair shake. That's what I'm talking about. I am excited that the Olympics is going to have boxing once again, because you guys may have heard that, you know, they trying to remove boxing from the Olympic program, and even after 2028 they may actually end up removing it. So boxing is on the rocks right now. I'm glad they get to have it, but I'm hoping that they fix this situation from the last Olympics. You're talking about, no disrespect, bro, but this is a dude fighting women. This is a man fighting women. And I don't mean that, because I know trans folks, they want to be called the sex that they identify with. You know, I'm pretty sure this Iman something, I'm pretty sure she wants to be called a woman. And I don't even have a problem with calling her a woman, saying you're her and you're a woman. But for combat sports, I'm going to call you a dude. If you're trying to compete versus real women, I'ma say you're a dude. You're a man trying to fight women. And that's crazy to me. Yoda, see that league in Russia that got 4 women fighting 1 man? I seen that 4 versus 1. That's crazy. AM Jordan, tank on top. I mean, listen, no matter what, and I respect everyone else's opinion. If you have a different opinion on this subject, I respect it. But I'm never gonna agree with trans women competing versus real women. I just can't agree with that. I can't. I feel like they have to get that fixed. Trans women, hey, listen, you should compete either versus men because you was born a male, or you should compete versus other trans women because they were also born a male just like you. But if you was born a male, no matter what process you did, whether you cut that thing off or you wear a wig or you put breast implants or whatever you did, you still have a physical advantage over other women. It's not going to be fair. 4 a.m. Jordan, trans are still dudes, no cap. Yo, listen. And it's even hard to say that in a public forum because you could get crucified for that. Trans women, they want to be called women. They want to be seen as women. And I don't even have a problem with that. But if you're trying to compete versus real women, then I'm going to see you as a dude. I'm not going to see you as a woman. Not in that case. Not under those circumstances where I know you have a physical advantage. And we see it. Like this dude went in the Olympics and walked out of there with a gold medal. Now, would he have walked out of there with a gold medal if he competed versus the men? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. So it's all about, sports in general. It's about being fair. Like, for example, in boxing, that's why there's weight classes. You're not going to put a welterweight versus a heavyweight because it would not be fair. So just like that, you should not put a dude versus a girl. That would not be fair. Yoda. So it has proven that the Olympics was in fact a man because she was representing a Muslim country. They don't play with that stuff. There was a lot of controversy behind that. First, people thought it was born a man. Then they try to say, nah, it was a woman. Then they say like there's been a lot of weird information that kept getting out. But ultimately, we ended up finding out that it's a trans woman. If you're a trans woman, you were born a man. Now, the gray area over here, which somebody told me on social media, is that this person was born with both sexes. Apparently, they were born with a penis and a vagina. But here's the important thing to keep in mind. Being born with both sexes doesn't make you both sexes. Here's the magic question. Do you have a uterus and can you get pregnant? Or do you produce sperm and you can get someone pregnant? Based on that, that's how you know if that's a man or a woman. Can this person get pregnant? Nope. That's it. You a dude. I don't care what they say you was born with. You's a dude. Ozzy, congrats on the 1K subscribers, bro. Appreciate it, my guy. You already know. We got to 1,000. Next up is 2,000. And eventually, it's going to be 1,000,000. We going for the million, my peoples. This is going to be number 1 right here. Ozzy, but she's a full woman, no penis. Nah, that was proven otherwise, my brother. That was they sold that lie so hard that even I argued with people. Nah, she's a woman. That turned out to be a lie, bro. That turned out to be a lie. I'm going to try to find the article to show you and share it. Oscar De La Hoya shared it a while back. That turned out to be the stuff about her not having no penis and the XY chromosomes and all that stuff. That turned out to be a lie. Matter of fact, right now while we're on here, you could Google it. Google it so you can see. It's a man. She a man. As a matter of fact, you know what's crazy? That they sold us that lie that she was a full woman. But if she was a full woman, why would they be calling her a trans woman? We should have known it was a lie right then and there. If she was a full woman, she would never be called a trans. They try to blur the lines and try to make it seem like, no, she's a woman. And the argument behind that is that supposedly she had both sexes. But nah, that's a dude. That's a full-blown man that could get another woman pregnant. Yoda, what fight on May 2nd has the biggest chance of upset in your opinion? Teofimo Lopez. I think Barboza is super confident. Barboza's looking like he's trying to pull off that upset. Hash Bass, a good male amateur fighter will beat a dominant, a professional female fighter because the strength are different. That's a fact. That's a fact. A good male amateur fighter will beat up a top-level female professional fighter. That's a fact. Ozzy, I think it's rumor, bro. Now I'm telling you, look it up. Look it up. Matter of fact, even if you think it's rumor, just think about it. Why do they call her a trans athlete? That right there says it everything. If you was a woman, born a woman in a vagina and all that, then you wouldn't be trans. You're trans because you was born a male and transitioned into a woman. And you could look at this dude's face, bro. You could look at this dude's face and know that's a dude. Look. Bro. That's a full-blown man right there. You could look at his face and know this is a dude right here. And I'm trying to tell you, they actually have me convinced. I was trying to explain to other people, no, that's a woman. That's a woman. It is. They already said it. And then it turned out, nope, that's a dude. Broke up over boxing. Good morning, my brother. Good morning, my G. Appreciate you coming through. I do not think trans athletes should be fighting in the Olympics. It's a man against a woman. That's a fact. That's a fact. It's a man against a woman. Ozzy, no Adam's apple, though. Come on, man. I know dudes that you can't even see no Adam's apple. That's genetics. Everybody's Adam's apple don't stick out like that. Yoda, you think Gabriela Fondora could beat him? I mean, that's a possibility. Gabriela Fondora is a lot bigger than him, size-wise. So I think because of that, having a physical edge, she'll probably be able to beat him, and she's very talented. But still, man, trans athletes should not be competing with real women. That to me should be automatic. And by the way, listen, Donald Trump said, and I think he passed a law in the U.S. where trans athletes are not allowed to compete versus women. So there's going to be controversy when it comes to this situation. Why? Because they already told this dude, they asked him like, yo, Donald Trump said this, and that. What are you going to do if the Olympics are held in the U.S.? And he brushed it off and said, I don't care what he says or thinks. I'm going to defend my title in the next Olympics. Ozzy, she looks like a man, but it's weird. I know she don't have a penis. Bro, you don't know that she don't have a penis. That's what they try to tell you, and you believe it. I understand. They have me convinced too. That's a lie. That's a dude. Broke up over boxing. I expect the community. I have nothing against the life choices, but that's a totally unfair. That's what I said too, my brother. I have absolutely nothing against the trans community. I think people should be able to live the life that they want to live. Whatever makes you happy, have at it. It don't affect me in no way, shape, or form if somebody's a trans. So I don't have no issue with it. But when it comes to competition, I do not want to see trans women compete versus real women. You see, there's a reason why the word trans is right there before the word woman. And it's because you was born a man. And being born a man is going to mean you have different bone structure, different muscle density, and basically those lead to a physical advantage. It's as simple as that. 4 a.m. Jordan, tail trash. He got beat by Cambosos. That's your opinion, my brother. Losing to a good fighter doesn't make anyone trash. But that's your take. I respect it. Yoda, Cambosos is a good fighter. How does that make him trash? I don't know. This is like the new social media thing. You lose to somebody, you're trash. Like, I don't go with that, my brother. Anybody can lose in the sport of boxing on any given night. That's the reality of the game. Broke up over boxing. The strength difference is a major factor. I mean, look at it, yo. This dude went in the Olympics in 2024 and walked out of there with a gold medal. You competed versus the best women in the world, and coincidentally enough, the first time you get up in there, you walk out with a gold medal. No wonder you did that. You're a dude competing against women. It's simple logic. Hash Bass. It's messed up now because in the United States, they have females competing in male sports in the public schools. And that shouldn't be the case either. That shouldn't be the case. I've seen, I guess some of these females, they're so talented, they're so good, they dominate in their, versus other women, and they want to cross over, compete versus the man. I guess that's easier to swallow. That's a easier to swallow pill because they're at a physical disadvantage and they're choosing to compete versus men. And if they excel versus the man, that says, yo, you're special. You're special. If you're a woman and you could play versus the man and have success, you're special. But if you're a man and you compete versus the girls, you're not special. You're not special. You think you slick. 4 a.m. Jordan, bro. Yo, the Cambosos is trash. He lost every fight since he beat Teal. All right, man. If you think he's trash, I don't know what to tell you, my guy. Yoda, what was the weight class? You mean the weight class the trans athlete competed in? I'm not sure because I'm really just looking at the images. I'm not getting into the details like that. But I think she should be competing versus men or versus other trans athletes. That's how I see it. Co-ed teams, and those are not non-contact sports like track. I'm okay with that. If it's not a combat sport, I'm okay with women competing versus the men. I'm cool with that. If women could compete versus the men, in golf, even though they can't hit the ball as hard and as far as the men, but they could be as accurate and all that stuff. They could compete versus the men in tennis, although that's a very physical sport, and they'll probably get their ass kicked. They could compete versus the men playing pool, something that's more related to that type of skill and IQ. But when it comes to combat sports, where we're going to go one-on-one and hit each other, no way. It shouldn't happen. D Towers, no disrespect, but trans should fight trans or men, not females. That's what I just said, my brother. That's exactly what I just said. And I don't have a problem. Yo, I do not have a problem with the trans community. I feel like people should, and nobody in the LGBTQ plus and everything else, I don't have a problem with anybody in any of those communities. You should live the life the way you want to live it. None of that affects me. Do you. Live your life. But when it comes to competition, I'm not with it. I'm not with it. 4 a.m. Jordan, I dislike the agenda we pushing this fruity stuff. I mean, look, it seems like, it doesn't seem, you could see an agenda being pushed. I would say, people of that community made it to high places and they're pushing the buttons to make certain things happen. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, my peoples. You see these famous people that influence the young ones coming up, wearing them tight booty hogging pants, men now wearing purses and dresses and all this other stuff. I don't know what to tell y'all, man. I don't know Why is this happening? Us, people who are in our 40s, 30s, and older, we've seen how things started changing when it comes to fashion. But nothing is going to get me on board with that. There's nothing that anybody could tell me to say, you know what, yeah, trans, they should be able to compete versus real women. Nothing is going to convince me of that. It's just not happening. Yoda, there's less than 1% of athletes that are competing in sports anyways. Okay, then those less than 1% make them compete against each other. Because even though it's less than 1%, as you say, but guess what? There's women that have to face them. This Iman dude, there's women that got beat up so he could end up with that gold medal. So that 1%, that small percentage, don't mean nothing when you're the one that have to step in versus a dude. Broke up over boxing. But you should not have men versus women in combat sport. You should not. It's just logical. Even if you identify as a woman, I agree with that. You can identify as whatever you want. I don't have a problem with it. But if you're going to compete in combat sports, you need to compete versus the people born the same sex as you. So even though you transition into a woman and you feel like a woman and legally you call yourself a woman, you were still born a man. You need to compete versus the man. That's how I see it. That's just not going to change. Hashbash Datus. Women can't compete with men in any sports because tennis and baseball, the balls come at you in different speeds that a woman will not be able to deal with. I agree. But to give you an example, women can compete with men in checkers, in chess, I guess other sports where it's mostly about IQ and you don't use physical strength. They could compete there. But anything that is physical, women are always going to be at a disadvantage. Now, I don't have a problem with women competing versus men in tennis, for example, because even though men are going to have the edge when it comes to strength, you're not going to hurt her. You're not going to cause physical harm. So, the most that's going to happen is that you're going to win on points. That's it. But in a sport, when you could beat a woman's ass, hell no, I'm not with it. I'm not having it. I hope, and listen, Donald Trump spoke out about this subject, and he specifically pointed out that trans athletes are not going to be allowed to compete versus women. So let's see. Let's see how this is going to unfold when it comes to the 2028 Olympics. Hannibal, salute, Smith. What's the deal, my G? Appreciate you dropping in, my brother. Y'all already know, for those new to the channel, man, hit that like button, subscribe. We already got to 1,000 subscribers. Next stop, 2,000. And eventually, we going for 1 million. 1 million, that's what we going for. But yeah, my peoples, I'm not with it. Nobody's going to convince me that it's okay for trans women to compete versus real women. It's just not happening. Yoda, they already banned it in NCAA, and I'm glad they did. I'm glad that they did. Chris Fontaine. Jay, what's up, my brother? What's the deal, my G? Appreciate you dropping in, man. That's what we talking about, Chris. Should trans athletes compete in combat sports versus, women? Because the real situation is going on with the women. We don't see a lot of women who transition into men and they trying to fight other men. We're not seeing that. We're seeing dudes who transition into women and they want to fight women. Not trying to hear that. Not trying to hear it. Hash Bass, the boy's going to break the racket. Love more Hinduism. Only Clarissa Shields can fight men. She's a female boxer. I think she'll get in the ring with men, and in some cases put the beats on them, but she's not gonna compete versus men. Chris Fontaine, hell no. That's what I'm talking about, my G. Hell to the no. Look at this. Y'all gonna tell me that it's okay for this dude to be competing against women? How you gonna tell me that? How you could look at me in the eyes and tell me, yeah, it's okay. He feels like a woman, and it's a trans woman. Trans women are real women. Man, listen, I don't have a problem. You could be whatever you want to be. If you feel like you're a woman, be a woman. If you feel like you're a bag of potato chips, be a bag of potato chips. But I'm not gonna accept a dude that transitioned into a woman competing versus real women. That just don't make sense to me. It doesn't at all. Chris, even Clarissa's bugging out trying to fight Keith. I don't think she was trying to fight Keith. I think they was just trash talking on social media, and they both got a lot of attention. You got to remember, man, Clarissa Shields, she's a businesswoman too, and she got to promote herself. She got to promote her brand. So when her and Keith Thurman went back and forth, everybody was talking about it, and that's what it's about: selling your brand, selling your name. Love More Hinduism. He could fight a man. That's a fact. If you was born a man, why you not competing versus the man? Why he not trying to fight the man? You want to fight the women who are smarter than you, who are weaker than you. Come on, that don't even make no sense. You already got you a gold medal in 2024 doing that craziness. You want another one? Oh, now you want to defend your title, get another gold medal? I'm not with it. I hope Donald Trump don't allow that to happen. He already said he's not having it with the trans fighting women. So, Yoda, on another side, can the hormones trans take can be considered PEDs? It's just too much. I mean, listen, bro. Whatever they take, your ass is a man. Go fight other men. It might actually, I don't think it is considered PEDs, I guess, because they allowed it. They allow him to compete in the last Olympics, so I guess maybe it's not considered PEDs. Or maybe, I don't know if they do cycles, if they just not using them for the Olympics, or I don't even know how that goes, man. But you're still a dude trying to compete versus women. Hashbash. Clarissa's delusion if she believes she can beat a man in professional boxing. I don't think she ever said she could beat a man in professional boxing. I don't think she ever tried to set up a professional fight. She just went back and forth with Keith Thurman, and that was it. RHC Uzbekistan, number 1 Olympic Games, 2 gold, silver. And Uzbekistan been in the scene when it comes to amateur boxing. Y'all been on the scene. Salute to Uzbekistan. Lord Freezer, Kazakhstan better than Uzbekistan. Salute, OG. Salute, my brother. Kazakhstan, 7 gold, 3 silver. Y'all been killing it out there on the amateur scene, bro. Love More Hinduism. Clarissa don't even got KO power for women. Don't forget what she did to her last opponent in the heavyweight division. She hurt her, dropped her with a nasty shot, and the opponent before that, she stopped her in a couple of rounds. The Ann Wolf beats knocking dudes out. She a strong girl. She a very strong girl. She a power puncher. But that's what I'm saying, though, man. At the end of the day, this person does not need to be fighting women in the Olympics. This person needs to be fighting dudes. All that stuff where you have, trans athletes in combat sports competing versus real women, it's just not fair. That's what I'm saying. Imagine a young lady from whatever country in the world. It could be from Cuba. It could be from Uzbekistan. It could be from any other countries in Europe, in Africa, anywhere. You compete, you fight, you blood, sweat, and tears to earn that spot, go to the Olympics. And when you get there, you got to fight a dude, you got to fight a trans woman and get beat like that. When you may have won a gold medal if you competed versus other women, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's insane. Lord Freezer, facts. That's a man. Love More Hinduism. That person shouldn't be in boxing, period. I mean, I don't have a problem. If he's going to compete versus men, I don't have a problem. Or if he's going to compete versus other trans women who are obviously born a man just like him, I don't have a problem. I do have a big problem with him competing versus women. You're a dude. Yoda, where was the Olympic held in France, right? The last Olympics, I think it was in France. But this next one is going to be in Los Angeles, in the USA. And Donald Trump has been very, very specific about trans athletes not competing versus women. There's a reason why the word trans goes ahead of the word women. Because you was born a man. So if you was born a man, it don't matter what type of surgery you did. If you chop that thing off, if you put on fake breasts, if you put on a wig, you still was born a man. You should not be competing versus women. Lord Freezer, they don't play that shit in the States, man. Fight men and women fight women. I mean, now listen, before these laws that have been passed via Donald Trump, trans athletes did compete versus women in different sports, including boxing. There was a trans woman that competed versus men in boxing. They're trying to get that stopped. In wrestling too. In NCAA wrestling, there was trans women that competed versus real women. But that has to stop. That has to stop. Period. Ryan Bender, boxing hasn't been lit since Floyd versus Pacquiao. Facts. I can't agree with you because boxing has been very good. It was very good last year. There was some big fights. You know, we got Errol versus Bud. Before that, we got Bivol versus Beterbiev. We got Usyk versus a few good fighters. So there's been some big fights in boxing. If you've been following up, there's been some big fights. Big Boss, trans should fight trans. I agree with you. You don't want to fight, like if you're a trans woman and you don't want to fight the men, okay, then go fight other trans women. Make up a league and make trans fight other trans. Love more Hinduism. Floyd Duck Prime Thurman. Yeah, but you see, that's not a fair assessment because Floyd was washed himself. Prime Thurman wasn't there at the same time Prime Floyd. So that's not fair. John Parham, hit that like and share. Appreciate it, my brother. Y'all already know, man. Hit that like button. Share it. We on the way up. Lord Freezer, Yoda. John Parham, Yoda, that's my shit. Yoda says, remember Mike Tyson punched the game? Ooh, punch out the game? The only weird thing was the French fighter. I tell you what, man, that game, the first time I actually ended it was when I got the code. I remember I used to get this magazine, EGM. I don't remember the name of the magazine, but I used to get a magazine that it will give you all the codes to all the games and all that stuff. And that's where I got the code so that you can skip straight to Mike Tyson. And that's the first time I beat it. You had to just go, you could do the code over and over until you beat him. And then eventually I was able to play throughout the whole game and get to Mike Tyson and beat him. But at first, before I got that code, I would get to Mike Tyson because if y'all remember, you only had, was it like 2 or 3 continues, something like that, and then game over. So I would always lose to Mike Tyson. First, I would always lose to Macho Man. Macho Man was, matter of fact, for those of you who played Mike Tyson, I'm going to remind y'all the hardest one was a King Hippo? Something Hippo. He was the hardest one because when you first got to him, you didn't know that you had to hit him in the belly first so he could open his mouth. And then you start hitting him. Oh, best code ever was Contract. Man, I still remember Contract. For the 30 lives, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, BA, select, start. Because if you was playing 2 players, you had to first hit select and then hit the start button. And both players would have the 30 lives. Ooh, yeah. But, yo, Hippo was the hardest one to figure out. Because any punch you threw at him, he would block it. And you had to wait. It was like 30 seconds into the round. He would go like that. And open his mouth and go like that. And unblock his belly. Where his belly button had like some Band-Aids. And when you would punch him in the Band-Aids, he would go. And then you start punching him in the face. And that's how you beat him. Then Macho Man was crazy hard to beat because he would do that right hook and the left hook, and one punch knocks you out. And then Mike Tyson, we already know Mike Tyson was crazy hard to beat. Lord Freezer, Hippo sound like Majin Buu. And that's how well, Majin Buu might have been copied. Oh yeah, Bald Bull, whew, he was tough. He was tough to beat. And you know who was hard to? Remember Soda Popinski? Ooh, Soda Popinski was in the game, bro. Mike Tyson was the shit, man. Mike Tyson, I love that game. Love that game. That was classic. But we digress, my peoples. So we are unanimous over here. Everybody agrees that trans women should not compete in combat sports versus real women. We all agree on that, right? Because I posted something on social media and somebody was already trying to make me look like the bad guy. Oh, you don't know because trans, they don't have the strength of a man anymore because, you know, they're taking these hormones and now their body's more feminine like. Man, shut the fuck up. That's a dude. I don't want to hear it. Trying to make me look like the villain. So I'm glad everybody up in here is with it. Troy back. What's the deal, my G? There's the magic question out there, man. Do you think trans women should compete versus real women in combat sports? There is nothing anybody can say to convince me otherwise. It just can't happen. There's no way. I'm glad this 2028 Olympics is going down in the U.S. because Donald Trump has already spoken out about that subject. He not having it. Elijah Mofat, where do you work so I can tell your employer? Golly, what do you want to tell my employer? What are you going to tell him? He should start working earlier? He should start a different work schedule? Come on now. Come on now. You're not going to be able to change my work schedule, buddy. Joseph Chavez, let them compete. Pay-per-view is flopping. I mean, let them compete against each other. That's fair. Lord Freezer, the man had the nerve to celebrate after he beat the woman. Disgusting behavior. Man, listen. I don't know how they even allow that. Troy back. Hell no. There's no such thing as trans women. See what I'm saying? People not having it. People not having it. That's why I be thinking to myself, yo, if most people not having it, are they trying to somehow normalize this? Are they trying to make it seem like it's normal? Okay, I appreciate you, Elijah. I don't know what is it that you told who, but it don't look like you came up in here to talk boxing. Do you have any boxing comments that you want to make, my guy? Why don't you just build your girl through trans? Okay, it looked like Elijah didn't come here for boxing, so peace out. It was good having you for a few minutes. Goofball. Big boss, it's a forced agenda for real. That's what it looks like, bro. That's what it really looks like. Because, I mean, look at what's going on, man. You've seen all these dudes that are influential wearing these purses, wearing dresses, wearing shit that, like, well, what's going on? What are you trying to feed into people's brains? It almost looked like the transgender community, they finally have people who got to high places, who are decision makers, and now they're controlling a lot of things and they're making those decisions. That's what it looks like. Troy back, only two genders, God bless Trump. There is only two genders. That's a fact. Now, like I always say, you could be whatever you want to be. You could believe you are whatever you could be a frying pan. If you believe you're a frying pan, I ain't got a problem with that. But as long as it comes to competitive combat sports, there's only two genders, men and women. Trans woman, you a dude. Go fight dudes. Jose Chavez, real men boxers don't even go toe to toe. Lord Freezer, bon voyage. Lord Frieza, God created men and women. That's it. All that. Listen, it's like I always say. I don't have any problem with anybody in the community, LGBTQ and whatever else there is. I don't have a problem with anybody. Be whatever you want to be. Call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. But don't force your perceived gender in your mind to where you could fight somebody that was born the opposite sex as you. That's not fair. Yo, the crazy. I remember if you wore a fanny pack, it was fruity. Just a fanny pack. You was a fruit basket. Now you got these masculine dudes wearing purses, painting their nails, painting their eyebrows and eyelashes, wearing skirts and dresses. What are you trying to teach? What are you trying to show people? Well, what are you trying to influence people into? Jose Chavez, let trans women fight real women. I'll pay for it. I don't know. I don't know why you with that, my brother, but I'm not with it. I don't want to see trans women fight real women. I want to see trans women fight men. I'll pay for that. Dude with fake breasts, wearing a wig and a skirt, fighting a man. I'll pay for that. I'll pay for that, bro. Yo, the cooking. That's facts. Fanny pack, they was laughing at you. Now you go out there with a whole purse and it's cool. Punisher, I like flashy clothes. I like diamond earrings. I love bright colors. Blur, purple, pink. Or stop it there. Painting your nails and wearing purse ain't it. Yo, they doing the most these days. The most. What are they trying to influence people into? Pedro Mota, hi. What's the deal, Pedro? I'm from Brazil. Ooh, shout out to Brazil, my brother. Appreciate you dropping in, man. Box Center, this is international. This is for the whole world. Real boxing talk. What we really need to be talking about. And what do you think, Pedro? Should trans women be allowed to compete versus real women in combat sports? That's why I'm glad Donald Trump is already taking a stance. When it comes to this subject, he already said what he said. And he gonna do what he gonna do. But this person right here says that he doesn't care what Donald Trump is saying, and he's gonna push to compete in the 2028 Olympics to defend his title versus women. Now, I have a feeling that this whole situation is going to end up in court. Why? Because in the U.S., they're going to reject him. They're going to say, nope, you cannot compete versus women. And he's not just going to take that and be like, okay, yeah, cool, I won't compete. I believe he's going to try to go to court and try to overturn that decision. And in the U.S., good luck. That's not going to happen. If you was born a woman, if you was born a man, feel free to compete with other men. We'll allow that. But you ain't going to be fighting no women. You wasn't born a woman. Yoda, what do you make of the fighter from DR that's calling out Shakur? That's De Los Santos. De Los Santos, he already fought Shakur. And, he lost, obviously. And I guess he's trying to get the rematch. He's a very good fighter. He's a very, very good fighter. In fact, he's finalizing a deal. That's being reported that he's finalizing a deal to fight Frank the Ghost Martin next. Yo, Dr. Wang, a ladyboy robbed me back in 1991 outside Caesar's Palace in Atlantic City. Let's go, Trump. And you know what that is, a ladyboy. You know what that damn dude. But you know what? I give props to the Chinese trans. You know why? Because the Chinese trans, they call themselves a ladyboy. They don't say, oh, I'm a woman, I'm a real woman. They say, I'm a ladyboy. They know what they are. They keep it 100. Punisher, yeah. Wearing dresses, purses, and painting your nails, ain't it? Shit. Dr. Wang, good morning or afternoon to you. Good morning, my brother. Appreciate you dropping in. So what do you think, Dr. Wang? Should trans women be allowed to compete versus natural born women versus real women. Yoda, the young one. Noble Young. Yo, MAGA. What's the deal, Noble Young? Yo, I'm saying Donald Trump is protecting women. I don't agree with everything Donald Trump says. I don't agree with everything Donald Trump does. But when it comes to protecting women, go Trump. Go Trump. That's a fact. Punisher. Santos is stripping though. He should have got back in the ring. What is he doing? Yeah, he's been inactive. He's been real inactive. I think that he's been trying to get in the ring. I think he's one of these fighters who's had maybe management issues where they haven't been able to get him a fight or something like that. But he definitely needs to be active. Hopefully, he's able to get that fight with Frank the Ghost Martin, and we'll see how that plays out because that's a good fight. That's a good fight, my peoples. Pedro Mota, boxing saved my life. I'm happy to hear it, man. I'm happy to hear it. Boxing is a beautiful sport. And I say boxing is the best sport that there is, that there ever was, and that there ever will be. Facts. Love more Hinduism. He's going to fight Martin. I hope they make that fight happen, my brother. I really do. That's a very good fight. That's a good matchup. Tough. They're both very tough, very good fighters. And I think that's a true 50-50 fight. Whoever is on their game, on top of their game at the very best on that night is going to win. They could go either way, I believe. Yoda. Not De Los Santos. Jadier Herrera. Jadier Herrera? I'm not sure who that is, my brother. Jadier Herrera? Are you spelling that correct? Because I'm not sure who that is. Punisher. Trans women should be able to compete against a woman if they tie both the trans hands to his back. I'm okay with that. Tie both his hands behind his back, blindfold him, and put him on roller skates. Then you can fight women. Love more Hinduism. He Cuban, Yoda. Yeah, because I don't know that to be a Dominican fighter. Hold on. I might even have to. Yeah, bro. Yeah, he's Cuban. I knew it because I was like, Dominican? Yeah, he's Cuban. By the way, in his picture for his box rec, my boy got half pink hair and half blonde. I'm not gonna judge him for that though. I'm not gonna judge him for that. You know, it's just that we talking about the trans fighters and the agenda that's out there. It's crazy, my peoples, to see how, you know, if you're in your 30s or even older, then you've seen it just like me, how things have been shifting. Man, we used to dress a certain way. Some of us still do. But now they got dudes wearing these real tight-ass shirts that you can see their nipples sticking out. These real tight-ass pants that you can see their butt and their nuts right through them shits. Purses, painting the nails. And all of that is somehow supposed to be cool. I don't know how that transition was even made. If you look throughout history, since forever, men have dressed like men. The only men that was dressing like women was performers. Okay, the dudes that did rock and roll, wore crazy shit. The guys that did some type of music wore some crazy shit. But regular people dress like men. Regular men just dress like men. Now we blurring the lines. Where you got men wearing blouses that look like they're made for women. Pants that look like they're made for women. I even seen high heels for men. High heels, yo. And the purses, you see it? All these famous people wearing purses like it's cool. So it's hard not to see an agenda. Like before, when I hear people saying, yo, that's an agenda. That's an agenda they trying to sell to people. I used to be like, nah, man, you wildin' now. That's just people wearing stupid stuff. But eventually, I started seeing that agenda too. Like, damn, they really be trying to have dudes thinking dressing like a woman is cool. So I'm not with it. But I respect whatever people want to wear. So if any of you watching me, if you want to wear your purse or if you want to paint your nails, I respect you. If you want to wear your high heels, a little mini skirt, I respect you. Do you? That's I guess that's the trending stuff right now. And I'm old school. I'm never gonna rock with none of that stuff. You ain't gonna see me wearing lipstick, makeup, eyelashes, a purse. You ain't gonna see me rocking none of that shit. That's just me. Maybe I'm too old school and I just don't get it. I'm not with it. Yo, the Roman and Greeks. Oh, they was wearing their little skirts. They was wearing their little skirt, but that was a different little skirt they was wearing. Love More Hinduism. Bad Bunny pushing that agenda. Ooh, Bad Bunny been pushing it hard, hard. We already seen Bad Bunny wearing dresses. We seen him with makeup, with lipstick, with all type of stuff, doing videos where he dressed like a woman. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with that. Punisher. And what's up? Hope you're having a good live stream. Appreciate it, my brother. You already know, man. We doing what we do. We doing what we do, which is boxing. Love More Hinduism. Shaking my head. A lot of shit going on, man. A lot of shit going on, and there's people that's with it for whatever reason. Yoda. Yoda, my most trusted advisors. How's your day going? Dr. Wang. Could you imagine Hagler, Duran, Salvador Sanchez painting fingernails and wearing purses like some boxers today? Hell no, those guys would never have been with it. They would never have been with it. They would have absolutely rejected that stuff. And there are people that are rejecting it today. We're rejecting it today. So I know those guys would have rejected that hard. You think you was gonna convince Muhammad Ali to put on lipstick or to paint his toenails and his fingernails? Hell no. He would have rejected that. There's people that they stand for something and nothing is gonna make them fall. They would have definitely rejected that, my guy. But this is the new society that we living in. They brainwashing them early. Young kids coming up are seeing that and they're being influenced by it. And they thinking that's cool. You know, if your favorite artist, that's your favorite artist, think about it. You're 12 years old, 13 years old, and that's your favorite artist. And you see him wearing, look at Lil Yachty. Lil Yachty out there wearing, painting his nails. Lipstick, wearing wigs. You 12 years old, you see that, you think that's cool. You want to do it. Punisher. Sebastian Fundora finally fighting again this Saturday. He fun to watch. Him and his sister. Yo, I love Sebastian Fundora. And as a matter of fact, I was telling people, if Spence would have fought him, he was going to beat Spence. I have Fundora beating Spence, bro. Very good fighter. Motown 909. Salute, Jay. Salute, my brother. Appreciate you dropping in to say what's up. And everybody who's in here, my peoples, if you haven't hit that like button, don't forget to hit that like button, man. Y'all already know what it is. We live, we talking about it, and we just letting it be known how things need to be. Ernest Morales, it's not about how they feel. It's what you are by birth. You see? What you're saying right there, there's nobody that can dispute that. You could feel like a frying pan. You could feel like a pigeon. But you're still what you was born. A dude. That's what you are. Now, I always go back to that. I don't have a problem with what people want to be. If you want to be, if you was born a man and you want to put on a wig, put on fake breasts, chop your thing off, and feel like a woman, I don't have a problem with you. What I have a problem is you taking that mentality into wanting to compete versus other women. That's what I have a problem with. Even Tank be on some weird shit. Yeah, Tank been on some weird shit too. With little purses and dancing like a little, you know what. Dr. Wang, it would have been interesting to see Spence get under that jab of Fundora. I got Virgil chopping Fundora down. I think that's a good assessment. That's a good assessment. Now, I tell you what. If you think about it, Tim Tszyu, he was beating Fundora before he had that big cut in his head. Tim Tszyu was looking like he was gonna win that fight. Then he had that cut, and then it went downhill from there. But Fundora is a very good fighter, and I think he's gonna give everyone and anyone a good fight. Punisher. I have Fundora beating Spence and Tim as well. People call me crazy, but I know my boxing. It's rare I miss, and when I do, I miss boxing. Anything can happen, but for the most part, my picks are solid. See, when we understand what's going on, we're gonna make solid picks. Once in a while, there's gonna be an upset, or it's gonna go the other way. It does happen. Love more Hinduism, a frying pan. I'm trying to tell you, I don't give a damn. If you want to be a frying pan, I'll call you a frying pan. Just go compete either with men or women based on what you was born. I don't care that you're a frying pan. Yoda, in Hagler Day, they had that funk playing in the gym while they were training. That's crazy punk rhythm. And that's one thing that I've been saying, like, if you see from back in the day people dressing crazy, they was doing some type of music, rock and roll, funk or something, and that was a costume. That's not how they actually dressed on their day-to-day. That's why some people say, nah, look, they used to dress like that too before, look. No. That was a costume. Not how they dress regularly. Now they trying to normalize it that dudes walk around with a purse, walk around with a handbag just like a woman. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's never happened before. Yo, me Dr. Wang, that demonic arch doctor of Demon Realm, is good to see you again. God damn. Love more Hinduism. That cut was crazy. Punisher. Facts. Man, listen. I'm glad that the 2028 Olympics are going down in Los Angeles, because Donald Trump already took his stance. He already made it very, very clear that he's not trying to have females compete versus trans women. He made it clear that they're trying to protect the women. Protect them. That's not fair. I just think about these girls, from all over the world who fought their asses off to earn a spot at the Olympics. And then you got to go over there and fight a dude? Yo, some of these girls had a chance of winning a gold medal. And that did not happen because they had to face a dude in the Olympics. That's like having your dreams stolen from you. You fought women in your own country. 4, 5, 6, 7 women. You won a bunch of tournaments in your own country to get there. And then when you get there, you got to fight a guy. That's crazy. That's crazy work. Yoda, try training to 70s funk. Your punch rhythm will be serious. Love more Hinduism. Kamala will have that trans, the face of boxer. I mean, I don't know. And the reason I say I don't know if Kamala would have had that is simply because I never really understood if she was okay or not with trans competing in combat sports. I don't really know what was her stance on that. So I know that they were trying to protect the rights of the trans, but as far as combat sports, I don't know, what she was rocking with. Rick Cusolio, you got a job? Rick, that question, I don't know, how does it have anything to do with boxing? Do you have anything boxing related that you would like to say to us? I'll be happy to answer that. You don't look like a guy that works for a living. Okay, yeah, that was your second message, not boxing related. It was good having you on. Peace out, goofball. Anyway, my peoples, I digress. I hope it doesn't make me a bad guy that I enjoy kicking people out of here. Love more Hinduism. Yes, she's very liberal. The reason I say that is because I know liberals, I know people who are diehard Democrats who are completely against trans competing versus women. So I don't want to generalize. Just because she's there, she's going to agree. I really don't know. Dr. Wang, if Clarissa really wanted to fight Keith Thurman, I was okay with it. In fact, I was going to pay for the pay-per-view. Honestly, I don't think it was about fighting Keith Thurman in a real fight. I think it was more about promoting herself and promoting her brand, because, there is no no boxing, no professional boxing between men and women. No sanctioning body would have sanctioned that fight. Maybe they could have did an exhibition. That could have been that. That is possible, but a real fight was never gonna happen. Love more Hinduism. He a hater. He out of here for that. Yoda, we on spring break here in Tampa, home with the kids. Oh shit, enjoy it, man. Enjoy your spring break. That's fire. That is fire. A lot of people are on spring break having a good time in different places. Hash Bass. The influential people took from Irish culture and evolved to what they really wanted to do. Dr. Wang. I was a simp. This American election, I voted for Kamala Harris because she's very attractive to me. Damn, bro. You wasn't even looking for a president. You just wanted to smash. Listen, a lot of people voted for Kamala for different reasons. This is the first time that I hear like, yo, I voted for her because she's fine. At least you're being honest about it. At least you're being honest about it. Yo, Kamala, she could get it. I'm not gonna say much, but I got respect for Kamala, but yo, she's an attractive lady. I'll put it like that. Punisher, damn, bro, that's crazy. Hey, listen, you gotta appreciate Dr. Wang's honesty. You gotta appreciate it. Punisher, honest man, but come on, homie. Ernest Morales, Thurman versus Shield, it's a circus. I mean, again, in professional boxing, we don't have female versus male. No sanctioning body was gonna green light that. The most we could have seen was, an exhibition bout. That's something that they can still do if they wanted to. Love more Hinduism. She a MILF. Yo, Kamala, listen. I'm not talking policies. I'm not getting into politics and none of that. But we all know how Kamala looks. That's all I could say. But I'm a married man. I'm not looking at Kamala like that. But if I was single, I'm just saying. But that's neither here nor there, my peoples. Damn, y'all ain't playing. Yoda, how do you feel about Dana White saying he wants to break boxing down and build it up? I mean, Dana White's not gonna, he's not gonna be able to break boxing down. He's not gonna be able to. That's why they got their own league. Which, by the way, I was looking at it. They're gonna have their own rules. They're gonna have. I already seen that they have a pay scheme. Like, boxers are gonna pay this much. If you're ranked in the top 10, you're gonna get paid this much. If you're ranked in the top 5, you get this much. And then if you defended a title, you get this much. They have a whole process. If they're gonna have their own belt also. So they're gonna have a lot of things going on over there. I don't know right now all the details. The pay scheme for titles, it looked like it was a little bit on the low side, because I didn't see guys making millions over there. So I guess if you go to that league, if you sign with that league, guys will probably make a name for themselves in that league. And if they get real famous, when their contract is up, they're going to leave and go sign with one of the main promoters outside of it, so that they can make those $1 million paydays. Love more Hinduism. Keep Dana out of boxing. My brother, he's already in. That's it. Him and His Excellency Turki Al-Shi, they already got something going. Dr. Wang, for 60 years old, she's put some young ones to shame. That's facts. That's facts. Baby Poo Poo, Mr. Trump Lord already answered your question, black man. Lord Trump said trans men will not be allowed to compete in the Olympics with women, sir. Box Center. I mean, that's what I'm hoping he does. Because this dude right here says, this dude, they told him. They told him. They were like, yo, Donald Trump, this dude right here, they told him, Donald Trump said that trans will not be allowed to compete versus women. And his response was, he brushed off Trump and said he's going to defend his title in Los Angeles. So what I think is going to happen is that he's going to try to take that decision to court, try to fight it. And I'm hoping that they don't let it happen. Donald Trump made it clear that he's not going to allow it. That's what we've been saying. Dr. Wang, Boxing needed a shakeup. So I'm glad Turkey's here. I hope all works out. I don't want to see him around the judges or influencing any of the fights anymore. That's a fact. I've been saying His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh is making boxing great again. He's made a lot of great fights already at this point. But I didn't like the fact, when Carlos Adames and Hamza Shiraz were fighting and he went to the corner, told them the scores and everything. That's influential to the judges, and I didn't like that. That's the only mistake that he's made to me so far. But he's been great for boxing, and I believe that league that they're going to make is also going to be great for the sport. Yoda. The higher-ups boxed Dana out for years. That's why Turkey said they making a league where no one can box out. They're going to have their own boxing league. Now, it's going to be a slow start for them. Because remember, stars are not just going to go into that league not knowing what the hell's going on. So they're going to have to build it up. And they're gonna sign a lot of fighters. Dana White already said it. They're going to sign a lot of fighters who already took losses, who are looking for an opportunity, and they're going to have the best fight the best. So it's going to be interesting competition on there. Dr. Wang, I believe his name is Box Center with Jay Smith. You know how it is, my brother. Some people, for whatever reason, they feel they need to say certain things, how they feel in their heart. I try to ignore it. At least I didn't kick them out right away. Hash Bass. Pay scheme doesn't look fair because some fighters put butts in seats and are a draw. That's a fact. The pay scheme, it didn't really look fair. When I saw the numbers, for guys who are stars, it looked like it's going to be on the low ball end. Reshot RS9. UFC, I think, is the future. It's a different sport. It's a different sport. People who love boxing, they're not just going to transition over to UFC. Just like people who love UFC ain't going to transition to boxing. I don't believe UFC is the future. UFC doesn't generate more money than boxing. It doesn't make bigger stars than boxing. So I don't believe it's the future. I believe it's a great combat sport. I love UFC. But all you have to look is the biggest earners in boxing. They make $20 million, $30 million. They have made more than that. In UFC, these guys are barely making $1 million, $2 million. Most of them are just making in the hundreds of thousands. Stars. So the money that they're generating should tell you that they're not ahead of boxing, and I just don't see them ever being ahead of boxing. Asiel Espinosa. What's the deal, my brother? Hash Bash. We will see Turkey's true color when he gets more comfortable and we saw him influence a decision. Yeah, I didn't like that. No, listen, I'm going to be honest. There's a few things that I don't like about Turkey. I don't like the fact that he's kind of like somebody who wants to be authority over people. Because I think after time, that may show up even more where it's what I say or nothing. Like, I'll give you an example. I noticed that a lot of fighters who fight big fights over there in Saudi Arabia, they end up signing their gloves and giving them to Turkey. And sometimes I don't feel like that's what they want to do. Because when you have a big fight, when you have a big win, that's stuff that you want to take home with you. That's stuff that, you want to cherish. You want to have that. So when I see fighters giving their fight stuff, signing and giving it over to Turkey, it almost feel like they didn't have a say. Like they felt like they had to do it. And then when you see Turkey, rounding up all the fighters, like, come on, take a picture with me. Like, everybody has to take a picture with him and have to, something doesn't feel right, but I don't want to judge. At the end of the day, Turkey is bringing in the money. He is making the big fights. But that's something that I'm kind of looking at, like, carefully and seeing, is there anything that makes it seem like maybe he's controlling people? Dr. Wang. Now that we will be a great getting away from, it's all about the old era. UFC model of fighters taking losses and still getting top fights after what is needed in boxing. That's a fact, Dr. Wang. But the thing is that we have to accept it. When somebody takes an L, they're still a top level fighter. They're still, like, look at Canelo. He lost to Bivol, and he was still making a lot of money, still a pay-per-view star, still looked at as the face of boxing by a lot of people. But it's newer boxing fans who think if you take a L, you're a bum, you're a hype job, you're no good. But we need to take it because boxing was like that in the 90s too. Boxing, you could take a L. When Evander Holyfield took a L, when Mike Tyson took a L, before that, when Sugar Ray Leonard took a L, Duran, all of the great fighters, when they took a L, they were still good to go. Now is that we have that era. That's why some people say Floyd, he was great for boxing while he was there, but after he retired, he ruined the sport of boxing. Because now everybody want to be Floyd. Everybody want to stay undefeated. Everybody's trying to retire with that O. And that, that's the reason why we're going to miss out on a lot of fights. People don't want to risk it. Yoda, Conor is highest paid UFC fighter and had that with Floyd Mayweather. His highest pay was in a boxing match, not in UFC. Punisher. Yeah, I noticed that too, bro. And he be holding their hands and shit. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, that's the only thing I noticed. Like, he seems like an authoritarian, like somebody who wants to control everybody around him. So it's like fighters go to Saudi Arabia or wherever he's at, and it's almost like they have to kiss his ass the whole time that they're there. And I don't like that part. Dr. Wang, I was shocked to see a picture of Dana White holding Turkey hand. I'm telling you, that's weird shit. Angry Knicks fan loyalty. Mayweather wasn't the only fighter to go undefeated. He wasn't, but he's the most famous fighter to go undefeated. Some of the other fighters who went undefeated, people don't even know them today. And then if you go back, Rocky Marciano, nobody who's watching boxing now actually saw Rocky fight. They just read it on a paper, saw it somewhere, oh yeah, this guy was undefeated. So a lot of the undefeated fighters, people didn't actually get to see them fight. They saw Floyd. So he's the most famous fighter to ever retire undefeated. Punisher, broken hold D's. Facts. You ain't gonna hold my hand. Hash Bass, Gary Antoine Russell took a loss, and his next fight was a championship fight. And look, right now, Gary Antoine Russell is more famous than he's ever been. Taking that loss didn't take anything away from him. Angry Nick fan loyalty. Andre Ward. Facts. He retired undefeated. But who's talking about Andre Ward? Andre Ward wasn't even a huge star when he was boxing. So he never became the type of star that Floyd Mayweather was. Dr. Wang. Look at Daniel Dubois after he proceeded to quit versus Joyce. People were done with him. Now he went on to become a heavyweight champ with some quality wins. And that, by the way, Daniel Dubois, if we look at what happened with Usyk, that should have been a knockout. He should have won that fight by stoppage. But it was ruled a low blow. Usyk got up and then beat him. And Angry Knicks fan loyalty, think about this. Andre Ward was the type of fighter who he went in the ring, did what he had to do, got off the ring, quietly went home. He never got into controversies. He never was always trying to get in front of the cameras, trying to get interviews, he just kind of like disappeared, went into training, and did his thing again in the next fight. I will compare Andre Ward to Tim Duncan. It's a different sport. But Tim Duncan was one of the greatest power forwards ever. Yet, people don't even talk about him like that. Why? Because he whooped some ass on the basketball court and then quietly went home. He didn't want no attention. He didn't want no cameras. He didn't want no interviews. Just quietly went home. Went to work, went home. And, people don't give him the flowers that he deserved. He never was the star that he should have been. Andre Ward was kind of like that. Punisher. That's also because Floyd made all about his O like a gimmick in a way. But he also became a bad guy. He was very smart when he became the bad guy. Because you remember the first time that he wore Mexican gear head to toe was when he fought De La Hoya. And after that, he just became the bad guy and started getting more attention. Hash Bass. Andre Ward left the sport too early. We should have seen him, Canelo, and Triple G. That's another thing. He left early. Floyd made it to 50 wins, even though the last one was, against Conor McGregor. That shouldn't even been a win. That should have been an exhibition fight, but he got it. Five Line Leon, yeah, SOG did it respectfully, full circle. Yeah, he was never, when he was a fighter, he would never try to get that type of attention. Troy Back, the criteria for this trans to compete against women, they must milk a bull and drink the milk. Dr. Wang, I always wanted to see Ward versus Triple G and Kovalev versus Adonis Stevenson. I wanted to see Andre Ward versus Triple G as well. I think that fight should have happened. For whatever reason, it didn't. Angry Knicks fan, Mayweather used to race bait. I felt that way, but here's the funny thing about it. When he fought Oscar De La Hoya, I used to live in New York City, and my neighbors were Mexican, right? And I remember being mad as hell, like, yo, Floyd, that's bullshit, man. He disrespecting the Mexican community, wearing that Mexican gear. And guess what, bro? My Mexican neighbors, they was against me. They was like, nah, yo, Floyd is showing us love. They love seeing him in Mexican gear. So even the Mexican community was split with Floyd Mayweather. Some hated him and some loved him. But that's what made him a superstar. He got to a point where there was no in between with Floyd Mayweather. You either hated him or you loved him. That's just how it was. Dr. Wang, they are reporting today 262 pay-per-views for Tank and Roach. I mean, I've seen multiple reports. I don't know if that one is going to turn out to be accurate, but it shows these reports, all of them have shown Ryan Garcia's star power. A lot of people say, no, but Ryan never did pay-per-view. That's irrelevant. At the end of the day, with Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis has done more pay-per-view than with anybody else by a landslide. That's why we have to accept pay-per-views is not just about one fighter. It's about who's your dance partner. And Tank hasn't even been able to come close to what he did with Ryan Garcia. Not with Frank Martin and not in this fight. Five Line Leon, he loved to fight on Cinco de Mayo. Facts. That's real talk. Because Floyd Mayweather built a huge Mexican fan base. Troy Back, Andre Ward never had an opponent to transcend to stardom. Floyd had the pay-per-view king in Oscar. Can't take away his greatness. Nah, that's true. That's a true statement right there. But Andre Ward could have fought Triple G. He could even stuck around and fought Canelo too. And that would have been huge. He chose to retire early. Hash Bash, Mayweather knew what Cinco de Mayo meant to Mexicans. Fact. He knew. He knew how to sell that. Punisher, what's your thoughts on Fundora fighting on the inside instead of using his reach advantage? I think that's the Mexican side of him. Honestly, man, I never understood it. He's a very, very tall guy. Yo, this guy can beat you up from across the ring. But he likes to bang. He likes to fight inside of a phone booth. I don't even understand why. I don't understand why, brother, for real. He's never been somebody to you. As a matter of fact, something that surprised me, if y'all remember, with Tim Tszyu, he was actually using that jab. He was trying to keep him on the outside. But yeah, man, that's just his style. He wants to bang. Yoda, if Devin wake up all Mexican gear and beat Ryan, that's a game changer. Whoa. But I don't know if Devin is going to do that. It could happen, but I don't know. I don't think he will. Angry Knicks fan loyalty. Mexican fans run boxing. Who don't want to fight in Cinco de Mayo? The thing is, man, and I give credit to Mexican fans. If you got a Mexican fan base, you set. They support you. That's why Canelo is consistently at the top when it comes to pay-per-views. They buy his pay-per-view, bro. They don't get a Fire Stick and watch it for free. They buy his pay-per-view. They support his shit. Like once you got a Mexican fan base, Floyd figured that out early. Once Floyd figured that out, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. My peoples, angry Knicks fan, angry Knicks fan loyalty. Mexican fans don't run boxing. I mean, look, it's hard to say that a fan base runs the sport, but I will say that they support their fighters hardcore, hard, because there's fighters who they get a lot of support, but then they go on pay-per-view and they don't sell. So all them people that supporting you on social media, they not buying your fights. Mexicans, they will buy your fight. They will buy your gear. You selling gear, they'll buy that shit. You selling a hat, they'll buy that shit. They support. John Parham, they may have the edge right now. Warlock Boxing, John Parham, barely. Javier Hernandez, Canelo is on top because he trains hard. Observe him train. He don't play games. I mean, yeah, but Canelo's the only, he's not the only guy who trains hard. There's a lot of guys who train hard. But a lot of guys don't have that fan base. If you don't have that fan base, you're not going to make that type of money. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Yo, the old Canelo fights are broadcast free in Mexico. John Parham, facts. John Parham, they support more, but don't run it. Angry Knicks fan loyalty. Look at Canelo. Canelo could fight your grandma and still sell 500K. You see, that's one thing that I said when he fought that dude a few years back. I can't even remember his name. That nobody knows him. That shit still sold mad pay-per-views. So that's what happens when you got a huge Mexican fan base. You're gonna make a lot of money. That's what I'm saying. Floyd figured that out. When he fought Oscar De La Hoya and what happened afterwards, that's why Cinco de Mayo was one of his dates on that calendar. Had to make it happen. My peoples, last question for y'all. For those who are here now. The Olympics are going down in 2028. There's a trans athlete who won a gold medal in 2024. Iman something. And he's saying that he's going to try to defend his gold medal in the U.S. Does anybody in here thinks that he's going to be successful in getting into the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles? I don't think so. Donald Trump already spoke out against that. He spoke out about protecting women and not allowing trans athletes. I don't think you're going to beat Trump, but he's saying that he will go there and defend. So what I'm assuming is that he's going to take that shit all the way to court. Does anybody think that homeboy is going to be able to fight in the Olympics versus women? Warlock Boxing, I hope not. Yoda, no. Pancho Villa, fam, that shit is disgusting. Carlo Davis, nope. John Parham, worry about the Knicks losing to the Spurs with backups. I hope not. Listen, my peoples, I love the sport of boxing. I think we all need to agree that the sport needs to be protected. The integrity of the sweet sign needs to be protected. And this is not the right thing to do. They made a mistake allowing them into the 2024 Olympics. And I hope that for 2028, Donald Trump and whoever else is in charge of that blocks that. Block that move. Make him go compete with other men if he wants to. Warlock Boxing, I'll be at the 2028 Olympics. Ooh, enjoy the show, my brother. I'd love to be there. I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to try to pull some strings and see if I could get there. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to see him fight Jake Paul. That's a fight. I'll pay for that. I will pay for that. Yo, listen. If Buddy was to fight Jake Paul on pay-per-view, I will pay for that. And this will be the first time I'm rooting for Jake Paul to whoop somebody's ass. I'll pay for that. I'll buy that. My peoples, Hash Bash, it's a chance he might because LA is a gay community. Don't say that, man. Don't say that. We don't want him, man. We don't want him up in there. My peoples, I'm about to end this live. As always, I want to give a shout out to everybody that show love. John Parham, Pancho Villa, Warlock Boxing, The Punisher, Dr. Wang. Yo, everybody who show up, come through. Carlos Davis, Yoda, Warlock Boxing. Shout out to all of you, my peoples. You already know what it is. We already got to 1,000 subscribers. Next stop is 2,000, and we going for 1,000,000. We going for 1,000,000. Trust me, I promise you. But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys showing love. One love to everybody who showed up today. Hit that. I still got like 30 more seconds before I get out of here. So hit that like button, man. Hit that like button. But yo, shout out to everybody, man. I really appreciate y'all. This is Jay Smith. This is your favorite boxers, favorite boxing show. Catch y'all later tonight. I'm going to be live again around 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to talk boxing like we do, my peoples. Y'all already know what it is, man. I'll see you later. Peace.